Assisting our elders when they require help should not be considered extraordinary, nor should it be a means to distinguish kind-hearted individuals from those who are less considerate. Assisting an elderly person in need should be a shared responsibility that everyone is willing to undertake when the situation demands. Regrettably, this is not always the reality. It appears that people are increasingly self-centered in today's world, and some are oblivious to their surroundings. Fortunately, there are still individuals who demonstrate that hope persists. Rose Greist was 89 years old and had spent more than half her life with her beloved husband David Greist, who was 11 years older than her, that is 100. The couple didn't have children, a decision they made by mutual agreement when they were young, as they preferred to prioritize work and leisure in their lives rather than building a family and devoting themselves entirely to the complicated mission of parenthood. Although the couple had no children, they were always surrounded by people who loved them and cared for them as if they were their own family. Rose was a nurse and David a famed cardiologist who spent a lifetime trying to understand the workings of the human heart and its secrets. As you might expect, the couple met while working together in the cardiology unit in the Orlando, Florida hospital, and were married just 2 years into their happy courtship. Rose and David had a full and happy life and never felt they lacked for anything. They lived in a beautiful home in one of Orlando's best neighborhoods and loved to travel. They had visited so many countries that it was beginning to be difficult to keep track. However, youth and the power of youth is not eternal, and the couple's best years began to slip behind them as they grew older and their health declined. Especially David's, who despite leading a healthy life away from vices, ended up suffering from the disease he'd spent his life fighting against, an infantile heart disease accompanied by diabetes. Rose, for her part, also had some age-related ailments, but nothing serious. Her biggest problem was the osteoarthritis she suffered from, which eventually forced her to need the help of a walker to walk, making it very difficult for her to carry out her daily activities and to assist her husband, who was much older than her and had more serious health problems. Did that mean the couple would give up on living? Of course not. Neither David nor his wife were intimidated by the passage of time and fought to the end to maintain their independence and not end up bedridden surrounded by nurses tending to them. "You shouldn't drive and walk around by yourselves. Please let me help you." Molly, a niece of David's, pleaded with her aunt and uncle every time they had to get around and refused to let her drive the car. "The state keeps renewing my driver's license because they still consider me fit to drive. Why would I argue with them?" "Thank you, Molly dear, but we can still go to the doctor's office by ourselves. I need to keep feeling that I can do things on my own. Otherwise, I'll start to think I'm getting old, and I won't let that happen." Her aunt replied, giving no room for discussion. Rose and her husband, as is normal for people of such advanced age, had to go to the doctor regularly, and to everyone's astonishment, they still did it without anyone's help, and Rose was the one who always drove the car. What they didn't know was that on that occasion, their decision to be so independent would have serious consequences and would end up forcing them to do what they liked least, to let themselves be helped. Also, if you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now, back to the story. It all started when Rose and her husband David were returning from a medical appointment in Orlando, Florida, where they'd done several blood tests on David and a small stress test. Normal tests given the diseases he was suffering from. At the hospital, everything went normally, and they had only 30 minutes to drive home, but when they'd only driven 10 kilometers, David felt the urgent need to go to the bathroom. "You have to stop, Rose, now, please. I'm sorry, I won't be able to hold it until I get home. Like it or not, my urinary system's as old as I am, and we all know they're not a few," pleaded her husband, who was in the passenger seat trying to stay in a good mood despite the discomfort. "All right, I'll stop, don't worry. Anyway, I need to go to the bathroom too. I'm not a little girl either, remember?" she replied wryly as she looked for a place to stop. A few minutes later, Rose made a stop at a nearby gas station so she and her 100-year-old husband David could go to the bathroom. As might be expected, the walk to the gas station restrooms wasn't easy for the couple, as Rose pulled her walker while David walked holding onto her with difficulty. It wasn't easy, but they made it. Things got more complicated later. As the two seniors were about to return to their vehicle after going to the restroom, both were exhausted, especially David, who'd been left tired by the hospital tests already. Rose was struggling with her walker, visibly shaking from the effort of simply walking, and David was in a similar state. It didn't look like they were going to make it to the car. It seemed that at any moment, any of the elderly couple would fall to the ground. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon in January, and the temperature was cold but pleasant, although it had been windy and cloudy all day, which meant that there was hardly any traffic in the area that was normally full of tourists. Rose had to stop to gather her strength and told her husband to wait by her side. It seemed the elderly couple was totally alone in the face of danger, and they'd have to make it through without help despite the risk to their health. But the truth was that they were not alone. Inside the gas station having a coffee break was Officer Kanisha Carnegie, who saw the whole scene through the glass. "Oh God, those two old people need help. I should help them and call an ambulance. It doesn't look good," the agent said to herself as she took the last sip of her coffee and prepared to leave to help the couple. However, Kanesha was not the only one who realized the elderly were in trouble. That afternoon at the gas station, there was someone else, namely 3 more people who would play the lead role in a tender scene that would captivate millions of people. The young policewoman was on her way to help them when a group of 3 men rushed up to them and offered assistance. David was about to fall when the arm of what appeared to be the youngest of the 3 held him firmly and helped him up. "Hold on to my arm, sir. You alright? Can we help you with anything? Are you in pain?" said the young man, very worried, while he stabilized the old man who was barely standing up. For her part, Rose, who was still pulling the walker, trembling while she watched over her husband, received the warm help of the other 2 men. "Ma'am, are you alright? Do you want us to call a doctor or take you somewhere? You shouldn't be here alone," another of the boys suggested tenderly as they each held her on one side and helped her to sit on a nearby seat. Those 3 mysterious men who seemed to come out of nowhere were the famous Orlando rappers Jock, Joe, Stowe, Marty, and Freddie, who'd been buying some snacks at the gas station when they saw Rose and David through the window. Slowly, the 3 men helped the pair to their car, and once there, they made sure they weren't left alone and received medical assistance so they could get home. "We'll take care of calling an ambulance, don't worry. Do you want something to drink or eat?" Teddy asked, seeing the weakened state of the elderly couple. David, who was beginning to feel better, thanked them for their help and recognized his mistake in trying to do everything by himself. "I'm 100 years old and still haven't learned how to ask for help. Can you believe it? You're very kind to help us, but surely you have more interesting things to do than help an old couple," replied the old man with resignation. "Don't say that, sir. We'll be glad to help you." Seeing them, I couldn't help thinking that it could be my grandmother standing there alone, shivering and with no one to help her, Marty replied kindly. "Do you always travel alone in a car? Don't you have anyone who can give you a ride or call for a cab?" Fred asked, intrigued to learn more about how 2 elderly people had gotten into that situation. Rose, aware of the extraordinariness of their situation, laughed and resigned herself to admitting the truth that had brought them there, even though that would involve admitting how wrong they were. "We've many people who love us and who've offered us their help on numerous occasions, but we refuse to accept it because we want to continue to feel free and young till the end. Although it's more than obvious that this isn't the case. If you hadn't intervened, we'd probably be in serious trouble now. Thank you very much for helping us. We're indebted to you," answered the old woman with gentleness. "We're happy to help you, but if I may give some advice, don't let pride or fear rule your lives. Doesn't matter if we get older and need more help than we do before the simplest things. That doesn't make us weak. It does push away all those who love us, though. Don't forget that," one of the rappers told him in a kind way. While they were talking, one of the 3 men had gone to the gas station to buy some drinks and cookies so they could hydrate and regain their strength. The old couple were very thirsty and hungry, so that little snack seemed like a real treat. "Butter cookies, my favorite. You're my savior," David exclaimed when he saw the box of cookies. Although he knew he couldn't abuse them, the old man needed something to eat and get his sugar levels up as soon as possible. Inspired by the scene unfolding before her, Agent Carnegie filmed the entire interaction and then decided to upload the clip to Facebook, explaining in detail everything that had happened and how it made her feel. As expected, the video was very well received. It accumulated more than 5 million views in just a few weeks. Social networks were filled with comments congratulating the rappers for their big heart. The kindness of these young rappers gives us hope for the generations to come because caring for those in need should not be an extraordinary once-a-year occurrence, but always. Did you like this touching and surprising story? If so, we invite you to leave us a comment expressing your opinion. If you want to continue enjoying inspiring stories like this one, subscribe to our channel or check out the other videos shown at the bottom of the screen. Thank you for your cooperation.